Welcome to the Space Marketing Podcast, where we look at marketing principles, strategies, and tactics through the lens of space. We are going to do things a little different for this episode. We will talk about outreach and education, which are powerful marketing facets that can spread powerful ideas that can change lives. So lift off in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Space Marketing Podcast. Information relating to our discussion today and links to the video version can be found in the episode show notes on spacemarketingpodcast.com. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. It will help more people reach beyond the atmosphere. Information in this episode is for entertainment and information only. Please consult a professional for your specific situation. On this episode, we are going to introduce the speakers that will be presenting at the next Space for Kentucky Roundtable. Space for Kentucky is another project that I host that focuses on introducing people to the space industry and hopefully get them excited about bringing it to their area. I originally started this Space for Kentucky Roundtable as an outreach vehicle to inspire Kentuckians to bring the space industry to the state. The coal industry left the eastern part of the state in a vacuum that has been filled with drugs, crime, and soaring dropout rates in school. Space can inspire and bring excitement in a way that no other industry can. It provides a challenge to reach for, to give us a group to belong to, and inspire us to be better people in a better world. Plus, space is a powerful economic driver for any area, with estimates reaching the $1 trillion mark. But this is more than just an outreach for me. When I was little, I was what we consider Appalachia poor. I lived 3 miles up a dirt road and hauled water from a stream. Sometimes I would be hauling water in the evening and the moon would be out and it would be so full. It filled me with such joy and wonder that I would sing to it. But I didn't know that it could be a part of my life's work. There were times when we had little to eat. My goal was to get to be 8 years old because then I could pick apples to bring some money for food for my mother and sister. I can relate to those in the hills of eastern Kentucky. I was lucky. I had those people in my life that introduced me to the wonders of space. Fast forward to the last decade, and I began working with kids from the Civil Air Patrol in about 2014. I met so many kids and adults that didn't know that there was more out there and up there. They didn't know that life could be full of wonder and joy. And when you see that spark flare in their eyes when they do realize it, teachers and educators, you know that spark. And you out there that inspire and mentor, you know that spark too. Space has the power to provide that spark and give us inspiration that can make going to school and work a completely different experience. Space for Kentucky is one platform that shares space outreach with speakers and experts from different segments of the space industry. There are so many space segments that people just don't know about. I don't know about. And my hope is that it will inspire someone to reach further than they ever thought they could. I have been delighted to see other areas outside the state and outside the U.S. are also getting to know what space can do so that they can share it too. It is my sincere hope that a message of inspiration reaches into every area around the globe and lights that spark in someone's eyes. Each Space for Kentucky Roundtable features a theme. This next one is tomorrow, and sorry for the late notice. If you are listening to this podcast after August 31st, the recording is available on spaceforkentucky.com. I try to organize about one roundtable every other month or so. The theme for tomorrow is Back to School, Educator Resources and Tools. I have 5 amazing educators on the panel tomorrow that will share tools and resources to bring space into the classroom. I have had the honor of interviewing 3 of the 5 guests on the Space Marketing Podcast, and one of the guests was a previous panelist on a past Space for Kentucky Roundtable. So for this episode, we are going to take a look back at the interviews of a few of these guests over the past year. We'll start with Courtney Black. Courtney Black is an education project manager with the International Space Station, United States National Lab. Before joining the National Lab, she served as a formal educator for 14 years, educating elementary to high school youth. She was a guest on January's Space for Kentucky Roundtable that focused on jobs in space. Here is a snippet.
I am an education project manager with the International Space Station National Laboratory. Kentucky has a very special place in my heart. My husband is from Kentucky. He grew up there. He went to the University of Kentucky, and thanks to the last 2 wins, we can proudly admit to that. We live on the Space Coast of Florida now with our 2 kids. I am a former formal classroom educator of 14 years. Before I went to Space Symposium back in 2017, I was just a geeky teacher that loved to teach about space, and knew that we had to inspire that next generation because they are the answer to where we are going and how.
Our next guest was in the audience that night, and here is Courtney talking to Kaci Heins.
I'm going to have to change up my script a little bit because there are rock stars on this call that could probably expound and elaborate on what I'm about to present, but only better. If it wasn't for Kaci Heins, I wouldn't be in the Civil Air Patrol or an AIAA member. We met back in 2017 at Space Symposium, and I was just a geeky teacher that loved space. And all of a sudden, this woman took me under her wing and said, do this, sign up for this. Kaci is also I'm going to butcher your job title. She's in the classroom, but she's also the education program manager for Limitless Space.
Education director for Limitless.
Education director. I told you. But she's amazing.
Kaci is a recent guest on the Space Marketing Podcast. She was the 2020 Alan Shepard Technology in Education Award. She was the Teacher of the Year. Wow. And she has been in education for over 20 years. Her work is focused on STEM education and space exploration. She is now currently serving as the Director of Education for the Limitless Space Institute. The Limitless Space Institute inspires and educates the next generation to travel beyond the solar system and support research and development of enabling technologies to do that. Here is her story about how she got interested in space.
Yeah.
So first, let's talk about you. Tell us why you choose to work in the space industry. How did your path get here?
Yeah, mine is a very unusual path. It is not the norm. I grew up in a small town in Southern Illinois where space was not talked about. I had no experience with it, and when I finally got to my own classroom, teaching in my own classroom in middle school science, I hated teaching space. I absolutely knew nothing about it because I had no experience, never watched a shuttle launch on TV, only looked at the stars at night, which were beautiful, but I had zero experience, and the kids had a million questions. What's a black hole? How far away is Neptune? All these things, and I had no clue. I had one astronomy class in college, and that was it. And so it made it really hard to teach. It made me, because I wasn't secure in that content area, made me kind of go over that unit really, really fast, or maybe not a lot of hands-on, which is very unlike me, but I just didn't understand it as well. So that's when I had a mentor teacher that had been to Space Camp for Educators. Honeywell used to sponsor hundreds, if not thousands of teachers over the years. And so what happened, I got accepted into that program in June of 2010. And from there, the rest is history. I walked in there and they hand you the blue flight suit, and they're like, here, you got to wear this during your missions. I'm like, I'm 28 years old. I got to wear this? What a bunch of nerds. I've never seen the Space Camp movie or anything. I get no exposure. And, we had our first mission, and I got to do an EVA. So I was in the zero gravity chair doing this mission. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. I have to be a part of this. I have to get plugged in. And from there, 13 years now, it's been an amazing ride as an educator. We've gotten to fly 2 experiments up to the International Space Station. I've flown 2 experiments with other teachers and student designs on the zero-G plane, which was amazing. We flew high altitude balloons up to 100,000 feet. I just changed everything about my teaching, and I taught it through the lens of space exploration. And because there's nothing that can capture the wonder and imagination of children like space, let alone adults. If I can get on this rocket, later in life, yes, let's do that for kids. And it's been so much fun as a teacher because I get to stay excited and rejuvenated and like, oh my gosh, what's happening next? Even with space missions, with New Horizons, oh my gosh, let's integrate that in the classroom. Oh my gosh, here's Artemis, let's integrate that. The next thing, you just get to refresh your curriculum as well, because it's also new and exciting, and it helps advance human exploration, and everything off the Earth helps everyone on the Earth.
She will be sharing Limitless Space Institute and some teacher resources. Here is a sneak peek at one of the resources that she will be talking about tomorrow.
We've got the Teacher Tuesday, so we want it to be something that our educators, or anyone else that wants to learn something, or if they're informal classroom setting as well, or the nonprofit or museum, they can come on Tuesday, to our social and see, okay, what are they talking about today? So we're trying to build that up now and focus on different lessons. So we're starting to build a library on our lesson library on our website where teachers can go, because everything we create, I want it to be free for anyone to use in their classrooms or however they see fit. So just building that repetition to come back to us every Tuesday, and then go to the website, download a lesson, or check out this information, because most teachers are life. And as teachers are starting this school year, I'm wishing them an amazing year, because teachers, I appreciate you. Limitless Space Institute appreciates you and all the hard work that you do for our students across the country, around the world. It is not an easy job, but we do have resources. I am always here for teachers, my people. If you need anything for your classrooms, please reach out to me, Kaci at limitlessspace.org. Please apply for our educator program. It goes live next Tuesday, August 15th. It will be open until September 22nd. If you are not an educator, just always be open. Be a lifelong learner. Go out, and research something new, exciting. Of course, we want you to focus on space because it's so cool. Be a part of the mission, but be engaged, be involved.
Yes, dare mighty things. Hold on to your boosters. We will be right back after a brief message from our sponsors. Please like and subscribe to the Space Marketing Podcast so you don't miss a thing. One of my favorite marketing facets is education. One of my favorite case studies is NASA. NASA used education to develop the Apollo program. When they launched those rockets to the moon, the people of the world didn't just watch them. They went with them, all because they understood what it took to get there. NASA is still a huge educator, and they inspire dreams. The next guest that I'm going to highlight tonight is Dr. Deepika Sangam. She will be joining us, and she currently works as the NASA Education Specialist. Her role involves assisting educators nationwide integrating real-world NASA STEM content into their classroom. Additionally, she leads the Greater Austin STEM Ecosystem Initiative and contributes to a STEM education nonprofit. Dr. Sangam excels in building partnerships to promote STEM participation, empowering educators, implementing cultural responsive teaching methods, and she has earned a doctorate in electrical engineering from Purdue. I can't wait to see her presentation. Next, we have another previous guest. Dr. Mark Wagner is the founder of Aries Learning. Here is a snippet of what Aries Learning is.
Well, Aries, which is the Academy for the Relentless Exploration of Space, is a school that sits at the intersection of three problems. And I should say it's a vision for a school. So we're working to get this off the ground. But
he is dedicated to inspiring students to enter STEM fields and rethink our world using space as the foundation.
I think that importance of space literacy, the sort of urgent importance of preparing kids for the growing space economy, and the very real importance of preparing kids for the rapidly approaching multi-planet future of humanity. I mean, before today's kindergartners graduate, we should have a permanent presence on the moon, and we're going to have people on Mars. So we are finally knocking on the door of being a multi-planetary species.
We also talk about his new book, Space Education, Preparing Students for Humanity's Multi-Planet Future. Here is a bit about...
Yeah, it's interesting. I had to keep the title short, but it's very, very similar to what Aries is about. It's very much preparing students for the growing space economy and humanity's rapidly approaching multi-planet future. The space economy is expected to be, just the sort of existing space industry is expected to be $1 trillion industry I think by 2040 is the projection. But if you look at new industries like space solar power, that's $1 trillion projected at the same time. If you look at asteroid mining, and the DART mission was just successful yesterday, we're looking at $1 trillion asteroid mining industry at that point in time too. And this is all in the next 15 years. And if you think about kids who are in school today, what they're going to see in those 15 years, and they're going to see us return to the moon, and they're going to see the first manned missions to Mars, and they're going to see probably 3 replacements for the International Space Station in the commercial arena, if not more. And they're going to see, all of these new launch providers and ubiquitous broadband internet provided by satellites that dictators can't block. And they're going to see, already Earth monitoring satellites changing all kinds of industry from agriculture to, architecture, you name it. Schools are not doing a good job preparing kids for that.
And if that wasn't enough, he is also the president of Space Prize. Space Prize is an essay and video competition focused on getting young women in high school inspired to reach for STEM careers. I was honored to be a judge for the first competition in New York City.
All of them we've had to partner with teachers in the schools, and it's been teachers who are passionate about this, taking it on. Most of our judges come from across the space industry, but we've also, of course, had teachers involved in reading the essays and that sort of thing, and teachers involved in the guest speaker series, and as part of the team writing the curriculum. We had practicing teachers, science teachers mostly, helping to write the Space Prize curriculum. So yeah, absolutely. There's so many great ways for teachers to be involved with Space Prize. But most importantly, if you're teaching kids, show them the guest speaker series. Just spaceprize.org/speakers. You'll see all of the recordings of the people we've talked to, including astronauts, scientists, engineers, historians, designers, you name it. And check out the curriculum and see if that's something you can use. We have that now at spaceprize.org/education. And it'll redirect you over to CK12, which is another nonprofit that provides essentially open education resources for the entire K-12 curriculum to students and teachers around the world. So,
the next guest I want to introduce to you is Robert. Robert is one of those dynamic people who make things happen. He was one of my first guests on this podcast. He has been an inspiration to me personally and has inspired my foray into the spaceport industry. He is the president of Guayaquil Space Society and CEO of Leviathan Space Industries. He has worked with many different entities, including Rice University, the International Space Station, the National Space Society, the Milo Space Science Institute, and Space Foundation to bring their services to the local schools. And there have been specific cases where he helped develop a space STEAM program for CEN. He has been instrumental in bringing space to his Ecuadorian classroom.
So when we think about what the students are doing and thinking about the challenges that they face, there are many. For example, we have malnutrition, we have domestic violence, we have lack of access to universities, we have them not being able to do any science at all in their schools. So we work in this program with the English Cultural Center, which is part of the U.S. Consulate here in Ecuador. And they ask us to help them do a program for a group of students, 15 to 18 years old, girls that are leaders in their community, but they're from very impoverished backgrounds. And the idea was to get them excited so they can start thinking about going to the university as a career path for them to go. Because what happens is you are locked in this cycle of poverty when you don't think that you have other opportunities and other things to do. And it's very sad because that's what you see around, the same job opportunities or the lack of, so nothing happens. So there's no motivation for them to think about their impact of what's going to be next with the things that they learn. And the idea in this case with this group of students was about getting them excited about STEAM science careers. And we use space as an important part of that conversation to be the dynamo to get them excited about what's happening, what's the future, what's the history, and how it's going to be impacting them, and how they can definitely find a path as they decide to go into the university, and then what lies beyond. And just breaking down those mental barriers is just really something really important. So that's part of the work that we have been doing, and we had our second cohort this year so far.
In a conversation, he told me he would love to see the Ecuadorian students and the students from a state like Kentucky working together on a project for space. I sincerely hope that his dream becomes a reality for classrooms all over the world. Imagine just how powerful it would be for the children of one country to work with the children of another country to accomplish something audacious in space that could bring this whole planet together. He has been very instrumental in bringing space to the Ecuadorian classroom. He has also been instrumental at bringing space to Ecuador itself. Here is an announcement from Ambassador Baki as she also guested on the Space Marketing Podcast.
It was an amazing and historic week where we announced on the same day, in the morning, the Artemis Accords agreement, and in the evening, the debt swap for environment, the blue bonds for the Galapagos, which is the largest in history of humanity. So yes, Ecuador is now known as a reference in the region by signing the Artemis Accords, and we send a powerful message to the international community that the Ecuadorian government is committed to reach cutting-edge efforts in the technology, and that it is open for innovation, investment, and workforce development to promote sustainable growth, while open to international collaboration to help solve humanity's greatest challenges. We are very excited that neighboring countries like Colombia, Brazil, and Mexico are part of this group, and now Ecuador is joining as the 26th member country to shape the future. And this important time of fast technological change and having a leading voice on this process.
The Ecuadorian government is focused on education. Here is a bit about that.
The Embassy of Ecuador has been supportive of local efforts that promote inclusion and education with students in Ecuador. With the Guayaquil Space Society, we participated in a downlink to the International Space Station where students from Guayaquil, Houston, and Scotland talked to astronauts live. And the leaders of all the three communities participated, discussing the importance of education and science. The Milo Space Science Institute from Arizona State University has visited us twice to show their commitment to invest in the future of workforce development.
I am so honored to have these champions of space education on the Space for Kentucky Roundtable. I hope that you can join us on August 31st at 6 p.m. and it is online. And if you hear this podcast after that date, please visit spaceforkentucky.com for the recording. A special thanks to the panelists for sharing their journey to space. Be sure to check out their links listed in today's show notes. And be sure to join us on Thursday for the Space for Kentucky Roundtable. If you can't catch this one, keep a lookout for the next one. I hope that you have found this podcast useful for your journey as you reach for those stars